And we are back with the final segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fourth segment, we are going to be talking about how the president of basketball just called out Joel Embiid. This was recently, so I literally just recently added this as the fourth segment. This was like about, about an hour ago, where the president of French basketball, he called out Joel Embiid, saying, Team USA, with him, who can beat you? Come on. Nobody. This is an easy way for him to get an Olympic medal. This was Jean-Pierre Ciutat, forgive me if I botched that name, on the Joel Embiid choosing Team USA over Team France. Now, I'm a little bit skewed on this because obviously, as an American, I'm like, USA. So give me Joel Embiid on my starting lineup, yes, but I really wouldn't care if Joel Embiid was in the starting lineup, honestly. I think his play style and him flopping 24/7 is actually going to hurt us more than it's going to help us. Because, let's face it, Joel Embiid's play style, it only works in the NBA. As I'm sorry to say, it only works in the NBA. The FIBA rules are a lot more different than the NBA rules. And, the Olympic rules are more different than the NBA rules. So when he goes into Team USA and in those Olympic games, I swear to God, if he complains to the ref even once, I'm actually going to lose it, because that's not going to fly overseas, because the game is played completely different over there. They're much more strict on the carries. They're much more strict on, they're a little lackluster on the defensive side. They actually allow the players to play defense and get really physical. And if Joel Embiid just keeps going like that 24/7 trying to get a foul, he's not going to get a foul. The refs don't care. They're going to call it the way they see it. And if the person is flopping, it's not gonna fly. I watched the Redeem Team documentary, and one of the challenges that Team USA had to face was how the FIBA rules were a little bit different than the regular NBA rules that they're used to. And not only that, the basketball was also relatively different. And so they had to come into this game with a different mentality. It's not now, especially now with how advanced the game is and how other countries have sort of caught up to Team USA in terms of skill gap, it can't just be we'll put in a random team with a bunch of the best players in the league and boom, that's our Team USA. That used to work, but now that the world has sort of caught up with us, it doesn't really work all that well. And not only that, other players from other big teams, for example, Luka Doncic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jokic, they're all going to be representing their own country in the Olympics. And they obviously, they had the option to go play for Team USA, but they chose not to. So seeing that Joel Embiid decided to choose to play for Team USA, it was almost as if he was trying to take the easy way out. Hence the title of this segment, The Easy Way Out. And we see that a lot now. And we've seen that in the NBA. We see that every single time that a player picks decides to play for Team USA. And they really like taking the easy way out. And with Joel Embiid's case, carrying the French team, I don't see why he wouldn't want to do that, but at the same time, I do see why he would want to just stay with Team USA, because it is usually an easy gold medal for Team USA. Basketball is it's our sport to lose, and it's if we end up losing, it's a really, really big deal. But so I guess Joel Embiid, he obviously he doesn't want to lose. He's tired of losing, and it makes sense, but I didn't really see him picking the French team over Team USA. It's really difficult for them to do that. Obviously, Luka, it makes sense why Luka would decide to pick his team over Team USA. He's been playing with that team since he was a teenager. Same thing could be said about Giannis, and the same thing could be said about Jokic. And all of those players, they get a lot of respect from that country. And it's it feels like you're getting stabbed in the back when one player decides to choose Team USA as opposed to their own country or where they were from. And I really see that. And this has sort of been like the players picking the easy way out. It's been a problem, unfortunately, since LeBron. Like, a lot of people think it started with LeBron, and in a way it sort of did, because LeBron James, there's a lot of context behind it. I'm not going to say LeBron took the easy way out, but there is a lot of context. The Cavs, they just weren't giving him the right pieces. They weren't hitting on the right draft picks. The players that they were getting, they were only really good in the regular season, and in the playoffs, they just didn't provide as much as you'd expect. They missed out on several players that were literally handed to them on silver platters, and they just didn't do anything with it for some reason, and that sort of forced LeBron's hand to just leave the organization entirely. And that was sort of like the start of players taking the easy way out, because in everyone's eyes, when LeBron James joined the Miami Heat and Chris Bosh also joined the Miami Heat, it was like no team was going to be able to beat them. That was sort of the thought process. And the reason why I don't really I don't really blame LeBron for doing that is because, one, the Cavs literally were doing nothing for him. They were not helping him in the slightest. And I don't understand why you'd expect someone to stay on the team when the team isn't helping them win. And he needed to win. You needed to win. He had an expectation to win the second he stepped foot in the league. But I digress on that. And then, obviously, it wasn't a guaranteed win for LeBron James, because he still had to go through the Boston Celtics, who still had their big three. Granted, they were getting older, but still, that big three was still a very dominant piece in the West. And having LeBron on the Heat, it sort of seemed like, that was a surefire way to win, at least on the Heat side, on the Heat standpoint. And that sort of set the tone for a lot of these other teams deciding to sign with different teams in free agency and form their own really good team. I think this really kicked off when Kevin Durant decided to make that weak move and join Golden State. I will blame KD till the day I die. He should never be forgotten that he made that move. Never in the history of basketball should anyone forget that Kevin Durant made the spineless, the softest, the weakest move in NBA history by joining Golden State. The team that beat him, the team that won 73 games, the team that has proven that they don't need him to win, decided to get him in free agency. And that set the tone for a lot of these players trying to find an easy way out, because that's what Kevin Durant did. He tried to find an easy way to get rings, because he felt that was the argument as to why he wasn't on the same level as LeBron. He didn't have the rings. So he thought, let me join a team that could help me win those rings, so that way he could destroy the argument. It actually made the argument worse. He ended up regretting it in a quote saying, "I don't know why you let me do this," to his agent. You can Google it if you guys don't believe me. But he ended up completely despising the move, but the deed was already done, and so he had to play through it. And with that in mind, it damaged his legacy, it damaged his reputation, especially now with what he's done in the playoffs. He's only made it as far as the second round after his departure from Golden State. He is clearly not that guy. He is not that player. He will never be on LeBron's level. He will never be in GOAT conversations. He is soft for that. And that was the start of players taking the easy way out, because shortly after that, several different super teams started to form. OKC, they tried making their super team with Carmelo Anthony and Paul George. Didn't really work. And Russell Westbrook. I forgot to add him. The Lakers, they ended up trying to get LeBron James, and they did getting LeBron James. Houston signing Chris Paul, and what other moves were made? And there were several other moves, and then later on, the Clippers getting Kawhi Leonard, the dynamic duo. The Lakers getting Anthony Davis. The Celtics teaming up with, pairing Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and now being the team that they are, being the super team that they are. Kyrie Irving, deciding to join the Nets with Kevin Durant, and then James Harden joining the Nets to help him try and win the championship. And then James Harden leaving the Nets because they weren't really in championship contending mode to go join the Sixers. And then leaving the Sixers to go join the Clippers, who are in contending mode. A lot of players, like, they take the easy way out, is what it seems like. And it's a new era in basketball where it's like they're taking the easy way out and they just want to win because the media, it sort of forced that hand on them. I mean, that's the old, honestly, this is the old heads' fault. This is, like, I don't want to be disrespectful in calling them old heads, but, like, this is, like, the old people's fault, like, the people that watched MJ, because what is the argument for Michael Jordan? He has 6 rings. So it's like, it's sort of skewed the media, and it's turned the media into thinking that if you don't have rings, you're not an all-time great, and you shouldn't even be worth acknowledging. And that's the old heads' fault. That's simply their fault, because if the argument wasn't that he has rings and that he has all these individual accolades and things of that nature, nobody would be bothered by the ring debate. But now everyone needs to win in order to be remembered, and it's like, it's very, very scrutinizing now. Like, players like T-Mac, players like Carmelo Anthony, players like Grant Hill, Derrick Rose. I don't like Derrick Rose in particular. I just gave him as an example. All of these types of players, they sort of don't get enough respect from any of the media because they haven't won. And it's unfair. Especially Melo's case, because Melo won Olympic gold medals. Forget championships. Melo won gold medals representing his country. That deserves a lot of respect. But he doesn't get that respect because everyone's like, oh, he didn't win a ring. He didn't win an NBA championship. So it's like, what? That's completely unfair. But that's all I really wanted to say about all of these players taking the easy way out. And with that, we are out of time for this 4th segment. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show. Leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. Leave a nice comment on any of the videos that I do or any of the segments that I do. Also, watch some of the other shows because we do have a lot of other podcasts. Like, we have the sports podcast, we have the football podcast, we have the baseball podcast, where, TJ does the sports podcast, Kenneth does the football podcast, Sam does the baseball podcast. Shout out to all of them. They do a great job in handling the show. So go ahead and tune into some of their shows and go ahead and watch. Like, I believe either Sam or TJ are going to be live directly after me, but I'm not entirely sure. Just go ahead and check. Now, we also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. And before I end, I say one more final goodbye. I'd like to remind everybody to please use the link in the description to go get your comments recognized. It puts your comments directly in front of my screen. That is gsmcpodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes the show much more interactive between myself and you guys. And that is the end of the show. Thank you once again. I am your host, Nelson. And as always, take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.